already give us a thumbs up that you can see us and hear us. And if all seems good, let me see what's happening here. Then good evening, everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Francesca Zampollo, founder and chief of inspiration at the Online School of Food Design. And today it's my greatest pleasure to share this webinar with my wonderful, it's over here, colleague, Jashan Sippy from Sugar and Space, director and head of vibes at Online School of Food Design. And today is kind of a special occasion because it's the first time that one of us founding this second version of the Online School of Food Design is presenting a new course. Jashan, welcome.
Hi, Francesca. Thanks for having me.
So let me just see here what's happening. I think we have Choux from Madrid. Hello, Choux. And then we have Valeria, who says, good evening to everybody. And tell us, Valeria, where you're from. You sound Italian, but I wouldn't want to assume. Andrea from Barcelona. Hi, Valeria. Hi, Andrea. And then we have RCD from Mexico, excited for the webinar. I am very excited too. Thank you so much. And Laura from Zurich, Switzerland. Hello, Zurich. Awesome. So all throughout the webinar, guys, feel free. First of all, tell us where you're from, always, and you know, chat with one another. It always makes us feel like we are actually talking to somebody, and this is actually happening in the life of multiple people. And how beautiful it is that the internet actually allows us to do this. And if at any point you have questions, just put it in the chat room, and I will ask Jashan, and we'll move forward with that. So we are really looking forward to hearing your questions. Valeria is from Italy, thank you. And then we have Ifeoma, I think, from Nigeria. Hi there. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Brilliant. So, Jashan, why are we here?
Well, we're here because we have a brand new course on the Online School of Food Design, and it's called Storytelling Through Choux.
Choux as in shoes to wear?
No, choux as in choux pastry, the stuff that eclairs and profiterolles and cream puffs are made of.
So I want to say this again. This course is called Storytelling Through Choux, right? So you're going to tell us that you're going to make us think about storytelling. You're going to teach us the art and very useful skill of storytelling through choux pastry. Now, exactly. If somebody doesn't know you, or actually probably for somebody who knows you as well, this sounds like, what's happening? But it makes so much sense. So stick with us, guys. I can't wait for all of this to unfold in this hour. This webinar together. Jashan is going to give us a ton of spoilers, and it's going to teach us a lot of things in this hour. And then for those of you who are interested, of course, the course is there too. Brilliant. So, Jashan, tell us about yourself, how you came into the world of food design, how you came into the world, maybe, and then how you came into the world.
It's a very, very relevant and pertinent question, especially today, because I think how I came into the world of food design is also how I came into the world. I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know if you're able to see it.
Yes, we are. Perfect.
All right. Super. So I came into the world, like most of us, through a mom and a dad. And that's my dad. We're twinning and matching as adults now with the doors as well. Well, I'm an architect, so might as well. But essentially, I think I started coming into the world of food design before I knew anything about any options of a career, including something as well-known or obvious as architecture, because this very father of mine used to tell me stories at bedtime when I was all of 3 and 4 years old. It started with Hansel and Gretel, but sort of went into, I think, our own version of absolutely fantastical imagination of the stories were not pink, guys, but of course I have made them pink. But they were these absolutely fabulous stories of Kit Kat roofs and gummy bear trees and sort of all of these adventurous walks through nature and architecture, but all sort of made out of candy and sweet. And hey, this could start leading me as an architect into the world of food design, but I, of course, had no idea. And I'm pretty sure my dad had no idea that he was doing this kind of impact through the stories he was telling at bedtime as well. And then as an architect, that's what I decided to pursue as a career. At the time, I still didn't know food design was a thing. We're exposed to a very different reality. Now imagine, this is what I expected to be like making and building. And then reality is sort of this very dull, concrete, gray, let me call it dry truth, right? It's not all that bad, right? Because as an architect, you're exposed to and get to work with different materials. They all come from earth. So it could be bricks, stone, timber, different sort of things. So in that sense, it was pretty interesting. But what happened was I kept going back to this imagination, right? And there's something more about this than just, sure, there might be brick and glass and stone and wood supporting this, but this just does something else. And is it just me, or does that also like speak differently to you, Francesca?
Absolutely. I wish all houses were actually like that. Not just pink, first of all, fluffy, soft, and smell delicious. And maybe you can even buy them. I would love that. That speaks totally to my imagination too.
Beautiful. So this is exactly what kept happening, because if we'd study architecture and buildings, my mind would go from the Taj Mahal to like the Taj Milfoy, right? And that was literally constantly this dilemma, because it's a kind of paradox, right? There's me who wants to bring in these ephemeral elements of food, which is made to be consumed, right? It's perishable, into this world of architecture, which is meant to be durable and is meant to last. And those two things, I think, are a huge challenge to cross over, but also I think that challenge is what's super exciting about crossing over this world of food and architecture. But to be very honest, if you start comparing the two, they're not so different, okay? In architecture or with food, right? You get raw materials for your building or for your dish or recipe from the earth, right? So it starts with extracting raw materials from the earth, and then you process it in a certain way. So with food, usually we can follow a recipe or a system. And then with architecture, you follow a blueprint or a sort of construction document that can help you go through the process. And then, of course, there's multiple steps that go into it. But as you can see, it's really not all that different when it comes down to it. And that's exactly what I studied for my architectural thesis. Ooh, Francesca, I think switched screen shares.
Sorry.
Perfect. No. So that's exactly what I studied for my architectural thesis, which was about gastronomy and architecture as multisensory experiences, because I really wanted to sort of explore how architecture is not purely visual and food is not just one-dimensional when it comes to taste, but ultimately it's all about satisfying the end consumer, whether you're building a building or designing a dish. It's something that we experience with all our senses. And so in my research, I did blindfolded experiments to simulate how, your other senses are enhanced when you cut off your sense of vision. We did sound and food pairing experiments to understand how sound plays a role not only in architectural spaces with acoustics, but also related to enjoying certain kinds of foods. And then, of course, I discovered that cake, for example, was a great and sustainable, instead of using styrofoam, for example, cake was a great way to make massing block models for buildings to study shade and shadow. Chocolate was a great cladding material to study, the divisions between your facades and your roof panels. So I started really exploring these kinds of crossovers, not necessarily knowing that 5 years later, here we would be talking about it. But it was just sort of more experimentation using edible materials. So these were pretzel sticks that made an arcade, sprinkles and icing that sort of made endless landscapes. And that's what I finally did for my final presentation. right? So for my thesis, instead of having any visual walkthrough and presentation, I just had a tasting experience. So my entire model was made out of pastry and cake. And I had my jurors taste their way through the entire model. So I walked them through it saying, okay, you're going to go into this room, and that's what I'm creating as an ambience in this room. So you can only taste what I'm going to tell you. It was pretty cool. That's me in architecture school. And then after moving to San Francisco, working with an architect, getting a master's in international business, I came back to this crossover between food and design because I started working in a management role at a place called Candytopia, which was like Willy Wonka in real life. So what you're seeing here is literally a pool of marshmallows. So people could come in. There was different rooms inspired by candy. You walk in, take awesome photographs for Instagram, but also you get to eat candy based on the theme of the room. And when I sort of started seeing that you're able to do this, where you're able to match food and architecture and take food from not only being something that's limited to a plate or a table, but also scale it up to a larger experience, I was super duper inspired and decided that it was time for me to really pursue and push what I had been sort of playing with in my head for several years. And that's how Sugar and Space was born. And you can sort of see these are probably the earlier on, and of course, these are still my most favorite things to do when I travel, is basically to pair iconic food with architecture. So you can very obviously see it in the photograph with the macaroon in it, with Champagne when I was in France a couple of years ago. And I came across that building and I had bought this beautiful box of macaroons. It was a champagne macaroon. And I was like, okay, this building is made for, this macaroon. So that's exactly what we do at our architectural food tours. So in San Francisco, for example, if you walk through Telegraph Hill, you will come across this mint green and brown building. And I had these mint chocolate chip cookies with me. And I was like, whoa, that's literally a food and architecture pairing again. And
you
it's
seem
not
like
just...
you seem like you always walk around with pastry in your backpack. That's cool.
It's a problem. If I'm traveling, that's literally all I'm doing is, instead of you can be in a museum, I'll be in the museum cafe. That's me. But it's not just visual, right? It could also be something that's super iconic to the culture of a place. So for me, one of my fondest memories growing up while visiting the UK and visiting family there was eating these Jaffa cakes. So they're little dark chocolate, orange, and shortbread biscuits. And that to me reminds me of holidays in London, for example. And so these kind of memories can also add into, personal touches to an architectural food tour, but also iconic food, local food of a certain place. So in Mumbai, we have the Victoria Terminus, or the CST station, which is one of the most busy hubs, commuter hubs for Bombay. And part of being able to commute in Mumbai is to walk through the hustle, bustle, smell, noise, all of it of that station. And you're able to come out from the underpass. And then you have vada pav, which is basically like a potato patty with this bread, essentially. And that to me is the perfect, again, iconic shot to get stunning architecture, but also eat something that's really local and represents an everyday life of someone in Mumbai. And so even when I've had visitors coming in or through Airbnb experiences, I've taken different people on this architectural food tour walk, and we pair different sort of food with buildings. So that's how I sort of got into the world of food and design.
I love it. I mean, what to say? I love it. I love that all of this was inspired by bedtime stories. Of course, I'm a romantic and a bit of a easy crier. What's the term in English? I get emotional very easily. So I love that it comes from that, and it just makes a lot of sense. And it's a very good overview of how you came to this course also. Because as you mentioned in a video that I will release, I think in a couple of days, or probably you're going to talk about it in this webinar as well, the Sugar and this course is kind of the essence of your love for food design and architecture, and your Sugar and Space, your actual food design studio. So that's beautiful. I love it.
I have a question for you, Francesca. Most importantly, have you got anything for us at this webinar?
Yes. So yes, you gave me very specific instruction for something that I didn't understand. So I don't know what's going to happen, but you told me to buy choux pastry, and I did. So
cheers.
Cheers. What is it? And this is Italy, I guess.
This is a very humble Indian choux pastry.
But from your kitchen, or did you buy it?
My kitchen.
So you see, no, I bought it, to be honest. So I have it, and I love that you brought it up, because it gives me an opportunity to tell people who are watching now that I'm not sure what's going to happen in this webinar, because yes, Jashan is going to tell us a lot of things, and is going to give us a lot of information and things for our personal growth. But there's also going to be something that's going to happen. It's going to be fun. And if I'm correct, that whatever you have planned to make me do today, it's a sneak peek into some activities that students will do in your course, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So what do you think about talking about storytelling and the actual content of, or actual the topic of this course, which the way I've learned about it, the way I see your course personally, is that the topic itself is threefold. You teach us about storytelling, which to me is the first word in the title, and already I was like, yes, let's present this course, because it's a skill that it's so important to everybody in the creative industries, in design and food design as well. And I was actually writing a post for Instagram, and I was reflecting on the fact that I haven't been taught about storytelling in university, and I did quite a few things in university, and nobody ever taught me about storytelling. And it's kind of one of those things that you have to realize for yourself how useful it is, and then you have to go out into the world and find information about it. So I love that you are actually creating a space where somebody can learn and experiment storytelling. That's one. The second is inspiration. You are going to tell us today in the course, you teach about inspiration, where to find inspiration, how to find inspiration, because it's not so straightforward. Absolutely. And third thing, you actually give us the very practical application and something that of all of these into something that we in creative industry, in design, we deal with every day, creating proposals or pitches of certain projects. So do you want to go into that?
Yeah, for sure. So I've shared my screen, if you can.
Yes, there it is.
So essentially, storytelling honestly is in my blood, because I come from a long line of movie makers. So my family, my dad and my grandfather, they have been in the movie business in Bollywood, and they've been producers and directors of different movies. I don't know if Francesca is back. Yeah, super. I don't know if I got cut off or that continued. I assume I got cut off.
No, everything was fine. I just had to blow my nose.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I come from a long line of movie makers, so storytelling essentially is probably in my blood. But essentially, when you talk about storytelling, irrespective of what medium we're talking about, it's essentially the setting up of a timeline of events, right? So what we did with how I got into food design was also essentially helping you connect with the story. So where I came from, and then what events took me up to where I am, today. But like you said, Francesca, I think even in university, we're not taught, I think, irrespective of what the courses are or the degrees are, we're not necessarily taught specifically about storytelling and as it being a super valuable tool. But in architecture as well, every time we sort of look at storytelling, we're actually building, when we draw out a plan, we're building a physical narrative which unveils something towards the end, right? And that essentially is also the same thing of setting up a timeline of events, because you're talking about, I walk in, let's say, through a main door into a lobby, take some steps to a living room, go through a couple of other spaces, come out onto a viewing deck, and then I'm revealed, exposed to this stunning view. That essentially also, that whole experience or setting up that movement is also storytelling. But again, I don't think it was taught to us in that manner at all. And that's why I think when I discovered choux pastry, the most exciting thing to me is when you cut into it, right? Essentially, and Francesca, I think you might have some choux pastry that you have cut into as well. Superb. So I think essentially when you cut into it, it has these little pockets, and that seems to be the perfect spot to start imagining or visualizing architecture. And also then we can start telling different kinds of stories.
So, I totally see how that could happen, because when I first looked at choux pastry through your eyes, I immediately saw a hobbit hole, which is, I'm obsessed with tiny houses and hobbit holes. And I thought, oh my God, I totally want to live there. So I totally see it.
Super. And really the beauty about it is that each choux pastry, I look at baking as the process of design, because in architecture school as well, we're taught so much about, and in any design school, you're taught so much about celebrating the process, right? Document the process, celebrate the process, go with it irrespective of what the outcome is, because it's the process that will inform, the end result tremendously. Irrespective of how you shape choux pastry, whether it's long in the form of an eclair, whether it's round in the shape of a Paris Brest, whether it's, a blob in the shape.
Okay, we have a freeze. Let me figure it out, guys. Give me a moment. Okay, he's back.
I'm back.
There you are.
We have heavy rains in Mumbai.
No problem. And we have below average internet where I am from, so no problem.
Right. So I was saying that the beauty of the choux pastry, irrespective of how you pipe it, is the inside is out of your control. It's something that's magical that happens in the oven. And that's how your choux pastry probably has those three. But if you ever try and get those three again, you're probably never going to get those three pockets, Francesca, maybe even if you try super hard.
Yeah.
But essentially, well, it's the same choux pastry, that you've cut into. So, but it's still a little different. But essentially, that is sort of the start of where storytelling through choux was born from. Because in my thesis, I was trying to sort of see if food could start being the miniature habitation for us, because we make miniature models in architecture school. So if I make a really big choux pastry, I've actually made a building, the inside of which is not determined by me, but actually by the user or the process. So that's sort of where storytelling through choux has originated.
Perfect. I love it. So let me go to my notes here. Love it. So what about using storytelling to create pitches, but maybe also the step before, inspiration. There's this component to your course. Where does inspiration come from in your opinion, and how can people deal with inspiration? And
Sure.
I ask this question because I know you have a specific perspective. I want to hear about that.
Sure. To be very honest, I think this also being stuck in a confined space for all of us, whether it was your home, whether it was your city, whether it was a bubble of, friends or locations, whatever it was through the last year, because all of us were so used to moving. I was so used to, saying, okay, I'm in San Francisco today, and then I can be in Mumbai and take a flight, and you don't necessarily think about it, right? Mobility and movement was something that, being in one place and one location for an extended period of time, even if it was your own home, was something that we were not used to, I think. And in my bedroom, I have my bed on wheels so I can lock it and move it around, and everything else is movable, because I keep needing to change my environment around to keep some kind of stimulation going, right? Especially during the pandemic while being at home. And I found inspiration from a very unexpected place, which is choux pastry, and that started during my thesis, right? But what I really found was, during the pandemic and during the lockdown, we were all sort of stuck in a rut, even irrespective of what your creative practice was. You could have been a writer, a marketer, a chef, an artist, whatever it was, right? And you were stuck without the external stimulation that we were used to in order to continue to be creative. So I think the bottom line of where it comes from is, inspiration can come from the most unexpected places, including your own surroundings. So Francesca, I have a very quick activity for you. You've got that choux pastry that you've cut open, right?
Yes.
I want you to take a few seconds, super quick, and just look around your own room that you've probably never looked at as a choux pastry holder, and just take a couple of quick photographs with your phone of choux pastry in different places.
Okay. So you want me to place this choux pastry in places and take photos?
Yeah, super simple activity, right? Very quick and easy.
Yes, for you, quick and easy. For me, I don't know. So just to be sure, while I try and figure this out, tell us about how you translate storytelling to the actual very useful aspect of pitching or creating proposal, and the thing that every day we have to deal with, and give us that transition.
Sure. So I think any story and narrative, there's two things to follow, right? There's always a story arc, which is a sort of beginning, middle, and end. And then to give it purpose, there's also 5 W's. So it's the who, what, where, why, and when. And when we start considering both of these sort of things, you will be able to communicate, or essentially you've got the foundation of a full-fledged story. Now, the magic comes when you can actually create or communicate that story using all your senses. What happens primarily when we're making a presentation or a pitch, like to any client and even to architecture clients, we use our voices to speak, and then we use a visual tool, a slideshow or whatever it is for it. But then we're all different learners, right? Where we could be gustatory learners, olfactory learners, tactile learners. We could be different kinds of learners. And if we don't use all those senses, potentially you could be falling short of actually connecting with your audience. So that's why I think if you make a multi-sensory pitch, you're probably onto a winner.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of it's another way to say why food design is much cooler than any other design discipline to me, right? Because when you use food, you just use all the 5 senses, and it's just a lot better. So absolutely. The other thing that I was thinking is that because of the nature of my contribution to the food design discipline with food design thinking, and therefore having creative process to help you to come up with ideas, the relevance that I see in this work that you're proposing and the content of this course that you're proposing is it's tightly related to creativity. sometimes we have a client who wants something by, I don't know, in 2 weeks time, and you sit around and just wait for inspiration to come. But that's not very smart use of your time. So very often we just have to come up with ideas. We can't wait for the aha moment, for divine inspiration to just hit us. It does happen, that does happen, but it's not reliable in terms of timing. So hence, creative processes, design thinking, and similar things that help us find inspiration. And the thing about creativity is that it comes when you connect distant and unrelated topics, distant and unrelated ideas. Really, the best ideas come from when different neurons in faraway places in your brain somehow find a way to meet, and they've never met before, and there's this new synapses that happens, and then you have a new idea. That requires time, that requires a process or conditions in your external life where your body is placed in that the certain activity for that connection to happen. That's what you are proposing with choux pastry. Choux pastry is this not unexpected, unassuming element that is going to enable that type of connection, and therefore to have these ideas come from. And I love it. And you find it in choux pastry. You're going to tell us about choux pastry, and somebody one day will discover that for them it's shoes. I don't know, right? Just to use the same route, or whatever else, or bicycles. But what is interesting for me in your course is that you're teaching us a way, and choux pastry is the element. And for some people, they will maybe bring choux pastry with them as well for the rest of their life. And some people will change the element, but you're teaching us this modality of way to operate and way to come up with ideas. I love it. Way to come up with inspiration. So why don't you tell us about the course itself now, and what it is about, and what is it? Why did you want to give this gift to the world?
Sure. I'm gonna share a little insight into a sneak peek into what the course looks like for students once they enroll, and talk you through it as well. Are you able to see this?
Yes.
Super. So essentially, through this course, what I wanted to bring out to the world was, of course, an introduction to myself, the influences and what I've been exposed to. And I wanted to do this in a very digestible way, right? Of course, you're not going to necessarily spend, 3 months talking about storytelling through choux, because we've all got lives to live, right? But of course, what I wanted to be able to do was, like you rightly said, Francesca, get us used to this quick turnover of being able to be agile, being able to be creative, being able to be lean while coming up with different options, iterations, ideas. So it's super important to think out of the box or horizontally. So what this course does essentially is, first of all, teaches you how to make your own choux pastry. And mind you, this is not a course meant to make you an expert choux pastry maker. There's much better and other people and pastry chefs out there who, of course, are doing a brilliant job at this. And that's why at Sugar and Space, we end up working with chefs all the time, right? And collaborating with them. But I think it's important to make your own choux pastry in this course, if you can, just because it helps you connect deeper with the material. And since we're really celebrating and talking about the process, it's one of those essential steps in the process that will help you appreciate the choux pastry more. After that, it's about getting to know your material better, right? So essentially, again, if we're working with a specific material, it's super important for us to connect with it tremendously. So Francesca, just grab your choux pastry, and I want you to super quickly give each of your 5 senses, your senses, a few seconds with the choux pastry, okay? And I'll continue speaking and then we'll come back to discussing. And after that, we're going to use different media, right? This is called a mixed media creativity workshop. So you're going to be able to express yourself through poetry, through photography, through videos, through drawing, through sketching, and maybe even performing. So we're going to talk about storytelling through photographs. We're going to talk about storytelling through words and how to build narratives. We're going to talk about storytelling through drawings or sketching. We're going to talk about storytelling through the senses, which I really think is the most important or interesting bit about this course. And then finally, you'll be creating your own, Choux story, essentially, which will be a culmination of all of these activities. So that's what the course sort of looks like. It's completely pre-recorded, so you can go at your own pace. You'll have lifelong access with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And I think, yeah, Francesca, that's what it sort of looks like on the inside. The best part, of course, is that you get to eat choux pastry at the end of your course. So fun.
Oh, I love it. And I actually love that the fact that you said in your in this interview that I'm going to release in a couple of days that what's one of the things that people will get from this course. So you list quite a few. The fact that they will have to place a choux pastry randomly in their house and take pictures, which is exactly what you had me to do before. I loved it. I loved my 5 minutes with my choux pastry. Actually, oops. I think that, smell amazing. 5 seconds rule. Smell amazing, and touch wonderful. And I love that at the bottom here it's actually so smooth. Visually, colors and how all these pockets create shape, shadows, etc. But I think what I loved the most was actually the sound. Tell me if you can hear something. Let's see. It sounds like paper.
Super interesting. Love it. Okay, Francesca, you've sent me photographs that you just clicked. Should I share them?
Yes.
All right.
Let's get publicly humiliated a bit more on my own channel. It's fine. That's why I'm here.
So you can share my screen.
Yes, sorry, I was replying to people. Okay.
Brilliant. So, Francesca, you have placed your beautiful choux pastry by some flowers and in a plant by the window. Super fun. Oh, is that the guitars behind you?
Yes.
I love it. And the if you actually think about it, the colors of this really work quite well. And the curves, there's something about the whole curvy form of this that makes it quite a appropriate home, I think, for choux. And oh my God, this is the food design library that the whole world is probably envious of. All the books.
No, just a few.
Love it. Why did you sort of decide to, or what does this photograph say to you, Francesca?
I mean, I've never thought of choux pastry outside of I'm gonna have an awesome vignette. We call them vignette here in Italy, I guess, and it's gonna taste amazing. And because of you, I'm thinking about choux pastry in terms of my job, food design, things that I do in my professional life. And so it just seemed, and we are here, we're doing a webinar as part of my job. And I put that always in quotes because it's not really a job when you like it and when you have fun, I guess. Maybe maybe we should only have jobs that we actually like. Anyway, so it just made sense to place it in a place where there's items that belong to that area of my life, I guess.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So these were some of the shots I took earlier today. So this was a choux pastry that completely flopped, but it was super fun because it sort of made this throne almost. and a seat that you could essentially sit in. I walked around my apartment building and went into some neighbors' houses and found some flowers just like yours. So I hid the choux pastry there. It's still there if you're watching. You can find some choux pastry in your house, guys. Also, I found like some inspiring paintings. So I've just placed some of the choux pastry there. So this could be an underwater theme, as well as played with balancing full choux pastries in between different nooks, crevices, and colors. As well as went out to the garden before we had some rain and got some choux pastry in the grass, but also on my way down, I have left a choux pastry hat on somebody's sculpture. So that's how I had fun today.
I love this is like a guerrilla art, just spreading choux pastry into the world.
Oh.
Love it.
So essentially, the course is priced at $49 US. And through this webinar and for 4 days only, we're offering a 15% off discount. So you can use the code WOW15OFF at checkout on the Online School of Food Design website. And the link is in the description of the YouTube video.
Perfect, absolutely. Have you gone through, because I've missed half of this webinar with photos to take and things. Have you talked us through the list of all the things that people will take from this course? We call them learning objective from our side, but what are the things that people are getting from this course? What will they learn?
So essentially with this course, through the structure that we just went over, you'll learn the history, a little bit of food science, as well as the step-by-step process of how to make choux pastry, right? And of course, the possibilities of what you can do with choux pastry then are endless. And we've also gone over sort of cultural references and choux pastry around the world and the different forms and sizes and names that it's taken. So I do know, I think, Francesca, the ones in Italy are deep fried, no? The beignets, or are they just baked?
Baked.
Just baked? Okay.
Yes, these one, yes.
Okay. And then you'll also learn how to use photography, creative writing.
Wait, I think there's a type of choux pastry that is actually then fried maybe in Sicily. I might be wrong. Sorry, I interrupted you, but but I'm not sure.
That's fine. The research is ongoing, so I might have to just make a trip to Italy and eat choux pastry everywhere I go. You can join me if you like.
Yes, I will.
And we'll leave a trail of choux pastry in every city. So then the second thing is you'll also learn how to use photography, creative writing, as well as 3D visualization to creatively start telling stories. So what I mean by sort of 3D visualization, Francesca, it's activity time again. Okay. You have your little choux pastry shell, right?
Yes.
What I want you to do essentially, and I'm going to turn my camera down in a minute, is sketch that out onto, I think you have a notepad with you. So just sketch that out and start imagining if this actually was a 3D space that you could sit inside. So now it's your little hobbit hole dream come true.
Okay. I wish I was a good sketcher, but a good drawing is not really one of my.
And I've just made a really rudimentary outline sketch of my choux pastry. And again, like I said, the beauty is each one that you have, each time that you do it is going to always be super duper different. And then finally, the third sort of learning objective is you will learn how to deliver unforgettable multi-sensory presentations and therefore win your audience over, right? So you can essentially connect with your audience and sell any creative project because you're going to make people super happy if you feed them things like choux pastries. It's a little bribing, you know.
Definitely. Am I supposed to decorate it inside as well now?
Well, not necessarily. Can we see how you've come up, like how you've come?
I was already making the bedroom.
So this is sort of my. Oh, look at you! Your drawing is better than mine. I was super basic. Okay, beautiful. So you've already gone into sort of creating a bedroom. What I'm also going to do is start looking and talking through what I am imagining with the choux pastry. So imagine if this was a building or a house, right? We've got the base here. So I'm just going to get a super quick ground line. And Francesca, I know I've got color and you don't.
Yes.
And then I see this sort of little pocket of this choux pastry, which I look at as the skylight. So it's beautiful natural sunlight coming through. And then I imagine this area could be my staircase. This could be a beautiful sort of loft. And then this is a lovely living and kitchen space. And then let's just get some nice nature.
My 3D is what it is, okay? No making fun of participants.
No making fun of participants. This is a judgment-free zone. And then I've added some water in here. So my choux pastry essentially has become a super fun potential holiday home.
Okay, well, that's
very basic 3D visualization, but literally this is you're on to making a super section for your next client's holiday home or your next dream vacation. Woohoo!
So how does this relate to that? How does an exercise like this, which of course it's a tiny 35 seconds version of what you have in mind, relate to creating I see how it's part of the storytelling, and how does it relate to maybe creating a proposal or a pitch?
Sure. So this, I think, is something that not only I as an architect have practiced and used in my own projects, but also I've worked with students of industrial design and product design, interior design, for example, who then could start using we've looked at this as architectural spaces, right? But you could also look at these forms for abstract art and settings like that. You could look at it as an inspiration for a new product. You could look at it as anything, right? Depending on how you want to use it. So that's the piece that it comes in with inspiration and horizontal thinking. The point of this is to be able to use this mode of visual communication, right? Through drawing and sketching to start visualizing what your choux pastry can lead you to, essentially. Francesca, let's see where you're at with your drawing.
Wait. Okay. So there's the bedroom, the entrance. There is a kitchen. This is a table, as you can clearly see. And then sofa on the top, and these are stairs. And this is storage.
Very important. I love it. But essentially, so this course is great for it's good for architects, it's good for interior designers, it's good for product and industrial designers, but it's also good for writers. It's good for people who work in marketing. It's good for people who work in photography. It's good for creative chefs, right? Anyone, essentially, critical food designers, speculative designers, event designers, right? So anyone who wants to push the boundaries of their creative practice and use and express themselves in multiple ways, so through different media, this course will just help you get into the habit and practice and flow of doing it. And the best part is, like I said, you can do it multiple times because you have access to it forever, essentially. Each time that you get the choux pastry, it's going to be different. So your outcomes are always going to be super different. And you always get to eat choux pastry again.
Exactly. Just find random things to fill it with. You know what I was thinking? Back then, when people used to use business cards, someone invented the edible business card, and we were all like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, this makes so much sense, it makes my my presentation, you presenting yourself to somebody, completely memorable. What you are giving us here is exactly that mechanism, just on a bigger scale, on the scale of presentation and proposals and pitches, etc. And students, have you mentioned students? Students create presentations of their projects all the time. You started when you were a student yourself, right? Should we share your screen here?
Yeah, and exactly. And these are some of my students as well, creating their presentations, but using choux pastry sort of as an inspiration. So absolutely. My drawing today was also absolutely not so great, but this is sort of where it can go to. This was Ellen DeGeneres's studio designed, through the choux pastry. And you can see it started with the photograph, just like you created, Francesca. The narrative, like you told me about, why you've put your choux pastry on your library desk, was sort of what you did with building a narrative with words. And then we don't realize it, right? But we do all of these things in order to even write an Instagram post or to put a series of stories up. We use storytelling all the time. And the possibilities are endless, right? It doesn't have to be a refined building. It could be this sort of abstract cityscape, because, well, obviously one of the students liked choux pastry a lot and decided to take more than I was meant to share with them. So they had multiple little choux pastries all together in their project. But essentially, we're moving into the flavor profile part, which is how to connect, the multisensory aspect to this. So in this image, I know you can see there's a rainbow color. It looks like a fashion studio. You can see the curved walls, which are obviously inspired by the choux pastry. But if you can see the little ingredients on the top there, those little Smarties or gems or M&Ms, they're sort of inspired, obviously, by the colors inside this drawing, right? And essentially, that's another piece of this course that you will be able to get into, which is what I call flavor profiling of spaces. Okay? So, Francesca, we're going to do a little quick flavor profiling exercise together, right?
Okay.
This is welcome to Mumbai.
Okay.
It's a long overdue trip for you. But this is our city museum. It's called the Baodaji Lad Museum. Okay. And if you were to look at this museum, I'll give you a little context. It's of course, it's a old colonial British building. But if you were to look at this building and if you were to tell me what flavor it is, if you were going to eat this building, what would it taste like, is what I'm asking you.
Not necessarily what type of food I associated with.
Maybe that
the flavor
that could help as well. Either way.
Kind of like a what is it called? A sponge cake, or what are they called? Yeah, like rectangular bricks of those cakes that eat with tea. Probably that's the British connection to me.
Great.
And minty, but yes, some subtle mint flavor.
So you're basically also building architectural food tours for me right now without knowing it, because you're starting to pair these visual elements of the building, but also historic connections, because you're looking at the British aspect and connecting that with a tea cake in the basic form. But you're also looking at the colors of this and telling me that, okay, maybe it's something minty because of the green color, I assume, right? And this is what the inside is. Now, what would you feel like eating?
Despite the fact that there are many hard lines, because of what I feel the most are colors here. So it's like one of these filled with cream to me. What is it in English? Pastry cream? No, pastry.
Crème pâtissière, no?
That one, yes,
yeah.
That one. So it's really creamy, and it drips when you bite into it. But if I look at the shapes, then they're sharper. Yeah, it's the color that speaks to me for sure the most.
Beautiful. So that's exactly what I did for my final presentation. So that little building that you're seeing there was actually a little cake. It was an almond and pistachio cake. So I didn't go mint. I went pistachio with it. And the inside of it inspired me to have this sort of, I love that you notice the lines and the the sort of, I made it the texture. So the outside was sort of creamy and smooth, but the inside had character and texture. So I had a cherry filling. So it had pops of these, the bright cherry colors. And when you bite into it, you feel it in your mouth. That's what this building featured as. So essentially what you just did was flavor profiled a building, Francesca.
Excellent.
Another quick example is this was a conservatory that was growing, fresh herbs, bright leaves, plenty of natural light. And so it features in the project as a mint and basil jelly with edible glitter. So that sort of architectural qualities of natural light and the smells and the aromas are all brought in if you were to take a bite of this. So flavor profiling is also an essential part of this course, and that's what will teach you how to make your pitch or presentation multisensory and how to connect it in a meaningful way to what you're trying to communicate.
And so, I guess that you have profiled mainly buildings because that's your background, but I guess that we could flavor profile a product, and a design for food, a non-edible product, a chair or a washing machine, or we could flavor profile a marketing campaign, an Instagram ad, a book with a story for children, bedtime stories, which I guess we could flavor profile anything, right?
Exactly. And I worked on a project with a design studio a couple of years ago where they had designed a beautiful desk made of wood from cocoa trees. So I 3D printed a model of their desk, a prototype with chocolate to connect that. And when we pitched it to the client and we were able to say, hey, this is what the desk is going to look, feel, smell, taste like. We were able to also then use flavor profiling in that way. But I think essentially this is a perfect tool and medium because you can flavor profile, you're absolutely right. You can flavor profile anything, right? And if you start adding all those sensory elements into it, food is just the medium for that communication. And in the course, you'll find examples of marketing campaigns that have used flavor profiling. I don't think this is a word as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware, I've coined flavor profiling as a thing, but maybe I've come across it over the years in some research. But now we're all saying flavor profiling.
It's part of your embedded knowledge. Awesome.
So essentially, that's basically how you can enjoy playing with choux pastry. And Sugar and Space is super excited to bring you this course. Now, Francesca, before we wrap up, I want you to do a quick flavor profiling exercise related to, should we go with the image that you shared with me? This one, since you shared the... So can you tell us, if you were to make a filling for your choux pastry based on the narrative you told us about this picture, what would it be?
A filling.
And you're not restricted to a traditional creme pâtissière. By all means, you could fill it with candies or you could fill it with cheese. You could do whatever you need to. But try and match it to the reasons behind your story. So make it personal and meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is bananas. And it's actually funny that you put this image in a yellow background. But yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is bananas, because the first presentation I've ever given about food design, I went onto the stage. It was actually quite a big audience, a few hundred people, I think. I had so much fun. I loved it. I went to the stage, and the first thing I did was bringing up a banana, and I started talking about this product and how it was beautifully designed and how its packaging was waterproof and smooth and easy to use, and it had an easy handle where to grab on, to pull, and you would peel the inside. So the packaging would allow you would protect the product inside, and you would still be able to hold the product while partially revealing it and then eating it, etc. And then I ate a bite of the banana, and I described the texture and the flavor and all of that. So long story short, bananas for me have been always like the perfect example of food design, just done by Mother Nature instead of a human being. And it was very easy to relate it at the time to food design because it was food product design. And often when you talk about food design, that's at least not only, but at least the first, for sure, sub-discipline of food design that people think about. So to me, bananas are related to food design. They've always been in my mind in that sense. So because of that photo, also, because of the fact that I chose to put the choux pastry in the context of what is my work life, then yep, bananas are edible, so I would probably fill it with bananas.
Beautiful. So you know what you're going to do after we're done with this webinar? Enjoy your choux pastry with banana in it, because what you've successfully done is flavor profile this photograph.
Okay, thank you so much. I guess I have to now actually do it and take a photo and send it to you. Probably post it on Instagram as well. Brilliant. Okay, so summing up, storytelling through shoes. Through shoe, not through shoes. Storytelling through shoe. In this course, you learn about techniques for storytelling and how to apply it, finding inspiration and how to apply storytelling to any outcome that is made for you to show what you are doing to other people, whether it's a business card or whether it's a architectural model, whether it's your product presentation, whatever it is. This is what the course is going to help you to do. What do you think the greatest what is the number one reason why people should invest the very reasonable amount of $50 into this course, $49 into this course? And by that I mean I have my own answer, because I know the course, and we have chosen to put the course in the school. We have chosen to give it as a proposition to people. But what do you think? But yeah, at the same time, we are all aware of the fact that we have limited resources, time and money to invest. And when we invest in furthering our training, our education, we want to do it wisely. And also because we're not just investing $49, we are investing time. People who are going to enroll in your course, they're going to give you time. They're going to give to your content hours of their weeks for the following months. Maybe someone can do it in a week or something, but some other people can take longer. So they're giving you time. So what do you think is and when we invest our resources into something, we want to do it because we know that it's going to be useful. So what do you think is the one thing that this course, the one reason why people are going to enroll in this course? What do you think is the one trigger that actually speaks to people and with a good reason to invest resources, time and money?
Sure. So I think it's having the ability to identify and find inspiration from the most unexpected places, right? So yes, you're investing time and money in this course, for example, but you'll also save tremendous time and money with your future projects once you have this methodology, right? You'll learn these techniques of thinking in a way, and especially if you work in the world of food design, this is great because if you can add flavor attributes to your product, to your experience, to your architecture space in my case, then you're connecting seamlessly these horizontal disciplines. And yeah, I think that's basically, I think, the crux of what people will be able to take forward. And also what we always love to do at Sugar and Space, if someone finds, you don't have to do this only with choux pastry, right? You can use the framework of this course to do it with a remote control, for all you know, right? But if you enjoy doing it with choux pastry and you want to start hosting your own storytelling through choux workshops locally where you are, hit me up and let's chat, and we can definitely see how to take a solid partnership and collaboration forward as well.
I was about to ask you to reveal the actual big sharing that you want to do with people who are going to take this course. And I think this is beautiful. You're actually offering a possible partnership with people who take this course. And so it's lovely. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, just to make sure that people understand what this actually is? So let's say that I take your course, I enjoy it, I connect with you because I want to work with you. What are we going to do?
Sure. So of course, I think depending on what your profile and expertise is and how much you feel comfortable doing, you don't necessarily, if you're a chef and you want to make the choux pastry, for example, we can connect you locally with a Sugar and Space host, and they can collaborate with you to run a Sugar and Space storytelling through choux workshop. You can do it online, you can do it in person. We have all the options for formats for public events available. You could also do it in educational institutes. So we provide you the content and the course material that we've used, not only in the online School of Food Design course, but also offline, depending on specific courses for architects, interior designers, etc. But let's say you are just a passionate host and you're not comfortable making choux pastry. Not a problem, because just like you, Francesca, today, well, you bicycled around your town and you went and bought some beignets. We could also start doing that and have a partnership with a local bakery so you can host fun, creative workshops with edible landscapes and these beautiful stories that we can all share and eat together.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for not just sharing your work, not just through the knowledge that you're giving in this course, and actually the knowledge that you're giving us in this hour together, and the inspiration that you're giving us this hour together, but for opening up collaboration, for opening up your studio for collaboration with anybody around the world, which is why we are here, isn't it that just we are here for that, like as human beings, as the online School of Food Design, as Food Design Nation, which we haven't mentioned. We haven't mentioned that Jashan is one of the founders of the Food Design Nation together with Nicole Vindel. So the underlying goal of all of these things that we are doing is just to connect, work together, and learn together, and walk together. Love it. Brilliant. That's it. I just wanted to give a quick reminder that the course is, as we said, $49, but there is a 15% discount with code WOW15 off, and it's going to expire in 4 days, 2 hours, and a little bit. And if you just click on start storytelling now, if this is not too slow, then you will find the space here where to put your code WOW15 off, and you'll get 15% off. Awesome. Let me stop this. Let me go back here. That's it.
That's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jashan. Thank you to all of you who have been with us live, and thank you to all of you who will be watching this webinar later on. For anyone, if you have any question, just write to us either in our Instagram pages, you see them here in the screen, or through the online School of Food Design or our private website. There's a million ways you can get in touch with us to ask questions about the course, or even just to say hi, to get in touch, to tell us what you're doing, and we'll tell you the million things that Food Design Nation is doing, and the million ways you can also interact with us. And that's it. Thank you, Jashan, again for your time.
Thank you so much, Francesca. And thank you guys, all of you, for tuning in.
To all of you, have a lovely day and happy food design. Bye.